The news headlines: State government assures of resumption of production of Peacock Paints Limited, Etinan, in less than a month. Non-indigenous residents in Akwa Ibom lauded for their contribution to national development. And 5 new ADs appointed for Akwa Ibom State Deputy Governor. Details of these and other stories in a moment. Good morning and thanks for joining us on the news. I am Samuel Udofia. Governor Udom Emmanuel has assured that in less than a month, Peacock Paints Limited, Etinan, would again be running, and that all preliminary arrangements have been concluded for the construction of the Ibaka Deep Sea Port to commence activities next year. The governor was speaking at the inauguration of the Akwa Ibom State chapter of the Nigerian Institution of Mechanical Engineers in Uyo. The story is presented in our studios.
Represented by the Commissioner for Special Duties, Engineer Etido Inyang, the Governor commended the Professor Adisa Bello-led National Executives of the Nigerian Institution of Mechanical Engineers for approving the formation of the Akwa Ibom State chapter, noting that it was timely as focus was on industrialization and sustainable development. Governor Emmanuel said proper partnership between engineers and the government would enhance and quicken the realization of his administration's goal of making Akwa Ibom an industrial hub in Nigeria.
I challenge everyone here today to seek out opportunities to make palpable impact as we administer in our various fields of human endeavors. You can be rest assured that as a government, we will continue to open our doors for partnership and collaboration, and like any other worthy organization, support your institution in our quest to deliver good governance and improve quality of life to people of Akwa Ibom State and Nigeria at large.
The National Chairman of the Nigerian Institution of Mechanical Engineers, Professor Adisa Bello, expressed delight at the success of the Akwa Ibom inauguration as the association's 19th chapter, stressing that the chapter would afford more mechanical engineers in the state an opportunity to improve themselves and be acquainted with emerging trends in the field through regular interactions with other professionals. Professor Bello said Nigeria as an underdeveloped nation was in dire need of professional engineering services and tasked Nigerian engineers to be conscious of the needs of their communities and be prepared to offer solutions. In a lecture titled Infrastructure Decay in Nigeria, a case study of Akwa Ibom State, the head, Department of Mechanical Engineering, University of Uyo, Dr. Donatus Uko, noted that the demise of industrial infrastructure experienced in Nigeria and the nonchalance towards remedying the situation should be of concern to every Nigerian, especially engineering professionals, while describing the situation where several strategic enterprises in the state, such as the Kwa Steel Products Limited, Eket, Plasto Crown Nigeria Limited, Uyo, Quality Ceramics Limited, Itu, Sunshine Batteries, Ukana, and many others which were funded from public treasury are allowed to fail as shameful, and task the Nigerian Institution of Mechanical Engineers to enlighten the government on the imperative to reinvest in those plants.
It's a 1.3 million tons of liquid steel per annum at Jakarta Steel Plant. It will be in the industry, and you can imagine what 1.3 million tons of liquid steel means and what comes in to generate it and what comes in to support it in terms of services and the businesses that can be developed to build and support that kind of operation. You will know what Nigeria is losing.
The chairman of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Akwa Ibom State Chapter, Engineer Benjamin Ekanem, who attributed the demise of such industries in Akwa Ibom to undue reliance on foreign expertise, encouraged Nigerian engineers to be willing to take reasonable risk and to explore opportunities that abound in the country.
Why are all our industries dead? It is because we rely on other people to do the thinking. But we Akwa Ibomites, we Nigerians, are one of the best brains in the world.
In his inaugural address, the pioneer chairman of the Akwa Ibom State chapter of the Nigerian Institution of Mechanical Engineers, Engineer Ekerete Usak, said the inauguration of the chapter marks the beginning of transformation which mechanical engineers in Akwa Ibom State will bring to bear. He appealed to the state government to grant professionals of the association an opportunity to contribute to the Ibaka Deep Seaport project through the building and fabrication of boats, ships and other vessels, as well as other projects requiring the expertise of mechanical engineers.
Can instead of us allowing those machines to run, which is not what the design intent was for that engineer, we can have an authority. Having opened a factory or a workshop or a foundry, we say engineers, mechanical engineers, go about, scavenge for this product, scavenge for this leftover cars, accidented vehicles, bring the engine blocks. If they are still okay, you can put it in the foundry and revitalize it. We are already building an engine in Akwa Ibom State.
Highlights of the event included the inauguration of the 2015 State Executive Council of the Nigerian Institution of Mechanical Engineers, as well as the presentation of special awards to the Governor, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Uyo, and others. The National Executive Council of the Nigerian Institution of Mechanical Engineers visited the Champion Breweries PLC Uyo and called on the Uyo Traditional Rulers Council.
Governor Udom Emmanuel of 5 new ADs for the office of the Deputy Governor. They are Pastor Ekikere Umo, Press Secretary, Engineer Francis Ekpo, Personal Assistant, Domestic, Ifyok Inwenekpo, Personal Assistant, Political, Barrister Ekomabasi Basi Esienete, Personal Assistant, Boundary Matters, and Inyobong Okun Okwak, Personal Assistant, Emergency and Disaster. The approval for the new appointments is intended to strengthen the machinery of government in line with the yearnings of the people and ensure effective service delivery in line with the philosophy of the present administration. Reacting, the State Deputy Governor, Mr. Moses Ekpo, charged the new appointees to consider the appointments as a clarion call to service. He appealed to them to, at all times, discharge their responsibilities within the dictates of good public service conduct. The Secretary to the State Government, Sir Itekamba Umorin, in a letter conveying the appointments, urged the new appointees to render faithful and dedicated service to the government and people of the state in order to justify the confidence reposed in them. Akwa Ibom State Government has commended non-indigens and other groups operating in the state for their support towards the growth of the state. The Deputy Governor, Mr. Moses Ekpo, who stated this while receiving leaders of G8 organization, particularly thanked them for their steadfastness and contributions towards the emergence of the new administration in the state. The Deputy Governor said government was particularly grateful for their show of solidarity in identifying with the aspiration of the people and government of the state. He advised the G8 and other allied ethnic-based organizations in the state to see themselves as indigens and stakeholders in the development of the state. Mr. Ekpo emphasized that government, in the discharge of its social responsibilities, does not discriminate against non-indigens in the areas of free education, healthcare delivery, and economic policies. The Deputy Governor dispelled rumor that Akwa Ibom government was in opposition to the present federal administration headed by President Muhammadu Buhari, saying nothing could be fairer from the truth. Dismissing such assertion as a tissue of lies spread by propagandists who are ignorant of the fundamental workings of civilized democracy, Mr. Ekpo explained that whereas the government at the federal level was run by the APC, the PDP remains the preferred political choice and option of government by the generality of Akwa Ibom people. He asserted that there was absolutely no cause for anxiety over the ongoing cases at the Election Petitions Tribunal involving the state, as these are both normal and commonplace in the course of fulfilling democratic elections. He noted that the philosophy of the People's Democratic Party in Akwa Ibom State was a people-centered one, totally anchored on diligent service to the people, adding that the former and present administrations were totally committed to infrastructural renaissance and economic empowerment of the people. The coordinator of the G8, Dr. Kata Onyeziri, praised the efforts of the state government in fast-tracking the development of the state into a highly cosmopolitan one, and requested the state government to always carry them along in its development agenda. The G8 is an amalgamation of groups made up of the Arewa People's Assembly, Igbo Community, Ijaw Community, Building Materials Association of Akwa Ibom, and National Automobile Technicians Association, NATA. Others are the Ezinwane Progressive Association, Niger Delta Women for Peace, as well as the Youth Consultative Forum. A cross-section of Akwa Ibom women Saturday converged on the banquet hall grounds, Government House Yo, for the monthly prayer meeting with the theme Contending for Our Inheritance. The women sang and worshipped God for His benevolence and mercy upon the state.
The National Publicity Secretary of the party, Chief Olufomeji, said that the APC should rather advise people can be understood for everything. I remember
The wife of the governor, Deaconess Martha Emmanuel, speaking at the event, appreciated God for the gift of life and for sustaining the government these past months, saying His blessings upon the state were enormous. She thanked God for what He is using the governor to do for the state, noting that it was a sign of good things to come, and assured the women that as the governor has unfolded his industrialization programs for the state, she will soon follow suit by initiating programs that will positively touch the lives of women and youths. The governor's wife reminded the women that ability to seek for their inheritance is in them, but charged them to rise up and speak for their rights. In her Archbishop Emilia Samuel encouraged
It may pull down strongholds. It may destroy caterpillars. It may destroy canker worms. It may put many of people this year. Whatever had been a hindrance, me yaka industry upright to this state. Now Selene never working. And God has heard our prayer.
In her exhortation, Archbishop Emilia Samuel encouraged the women to stand up for their inheritance and not to run down others in order not to incur the wrath of God. Special prayers were offered for the peace of the country, state, as well as the success of the governor and wife. You're watching AKBC 45 News at dawn. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
There is a land of great beauty and a wonderful people. Here, Mary Slessor called home until she passed on to greater glory. Here, Lord Lugard lived and administered Nigeria. The hills roll like the waves, and the waves rise like the hills. A land named after God. Akwa Ibom State, the land of promise. Welcome to Akwa Ibom, the land of promise.
You're still watching AM News, and I'm Samuel Udofia. Members of the Ruko chapter of the Association of Former Elected Council Officials, AFECO, have been tasked to adequately enlighten members of their constituency on government's activities. The Commissioner for Economic Development, Dr. Emmanuel Owoduke, gave the task when executive members of AFECO paid him a courtesy visit. Dr. Owoduke assured the group of the Udom administration readiness to take Akwa Ibom State as one constituency, and that the governor has already attracted many industries to the state, which he noted would create employment for the people. Contract, he said, has been awarded for the construction of the failed portion of Oron Road, stating that contractors would soon be mobilized to site, and urged Oron people to be hopeful for better days ahead. He pleaded to do everything within his capacity to attract government presence to the area in order to improve the living standard of the people, and sued for support. Dr. Owoduke frowned at the incessant destruction of government property in the area by hoodlums, stating that it was wrong for anyone to deprive the whole community of electricity supply or any amenity because of greed, and called for a change of attitude.
The contractor will soon mobilize to site for the erosion control in that trouble spot. This government is all out to save the interests of our people. Therefore, I call on all of us to support this government, because development and progress can only come where there is peace and there is harmony.
The president of AFECO, Basi Adwang, expressed gratitude to Governor Udom Emmanuel for appointing one of their sons into his cabinet, expressing the hope that the commissioner would use his experience as an economist for the betterment of Akwa Ibom State and Nigeria. Mr. Andwang said the association was happy with the administration of Governor Udom Emmanuel for awarding contracts for the rehabilitation of roads and other projects barely 3 months in office, and was in total support of efforts by the state government for the upgrading of the Maritime Academy, Oron, in a degree awarding institution. He appealed to the state government to intervene in checking erosion and constructing roads in Oron Federal Constituency. Non-indigents residing in the state have been reassured of the hospitality of the people. The Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Welfare, Dr. Glory Edet, gave the assurance at a meeting with the women of other states of the Federation residing in Akwa Ibom under the umbrella of Aino, Arewa, Igbo, Niger Delta and Oduduwa states in her office. The story is presented in our studios.
Dr. Edet described Akwa Ibom people as people loving and tolerant of others. The commissioner commended the group's vibrancy, noting that it is capable of the lives of its members, and therefore encouraged them to continue to work strong. She expressed to the group is zeal, but urged them to continue in that same spirit and to support the government has laudable. The committee stressed the need for unity and love among them, charged them to live peacefully and to be law-abiding as they go about businesses.
The way this governor has started, in fact, in the next few years we'll be smiling.
The Secretary, Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Welfare, Mrs. Cecilia Inyang, who commended them for coming together as a group, urged them to continue to contribute to the development of the state. Responding, the president of INO, Mrs. Ekaite Collins Onuoha, while assuring the commissioner of her group's support for the new administration, lauded the peaceful disposition and hospitality of Akwa Ibom people, saying that they have, among other things, benefited from the free and compulsory education program of the state.
We have lived peacefully in this state for so many years. It has been very fruitful. Some of them, if they show you the pictures when they came or when their mothers came, you know that they've come a very long way.
The State Civil Service Sanitation Committee says it is impressed with the level of cleanliness of the Ministry of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs. The committee, which inspected the offices and surroundings, noticed a commendable improvement in the cleanliness of the offices, seating and proper arrangement of the files and other documents. The chairman of the committee, Mrs. Etuapan, who is the Permanent Secretary, General Services Office, lauded the Local Government Commissioner, Mr. Victor Antai, and the Permanent Secretary, Elder Marcos Enene, for providing purposeful leadership in the ministry and for mobilizing and motivating staff to rededicate themselves not just to their statutory duties, but also the hygienic condition of their office environment. A restaurant operator within the premises of the Ministry of Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Mrs. Mfoniyang, was also commended for her sense of hygiene, but advised her against selling alcoholic beverages to civil servants during official hours. At the newly constructed State Executive Council Secretariat, which also houses the office of the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, the committee was told that it was the duty of Julius Berger Company to keep the office complex clean. The chairman of the committee directed the head of administration at the Exco Secretariat to appoint an office manager who will be responsible for mobilizing staff to participate in the monthly exercise. Mrs. Etuapan also drew attention to the overflow of the refuse bin at the premises, advising that they should draw the attention of Julius Berger to empty the refuse bin on time. Christians yesterday thronged churches to appreciate God for sustenance throughout August and to also pray for protection in the remaining months of the year. When AKBC 45 News visited some churches in Uyo Metropolis, it was observed that most messages harped on the need for Christians to put their trust in God. The Iron of All takes us there.
The need for believers to strengthen their faith and to put their trust in God was the theme of Sunday's sermon in many churches. According to Bishop Ederu Sutum of the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World, Akareld, trust is when one believes in a person irrespective of what is at stake. Bishop Sutum said when believers put their trust in God, He takes control and grants them their heart's desires. The bishop enjoined the congregation not to doubt God no matter the hurdles they face, assuring that at the appointed time, God will see them through.
As you sit there, God is telling you the year of the redeemed has come. How do you receive it? Of what value it is to you? How do you take that thing that God has brought before you?
The General Overseer of Christ Rescue Ministries Incorporated, Apostle Ntiantia, who preached on God is not a man, said God has a reward for all who trust in Him. Apostle Ntia said the only thing that separates man from God's promises is sin, advising the congregation to abstain from sinful practices so as to attract God's blessings. The cleric admonished the church to wait on the Lord no matter the circumstance.
So God is not a man. Why? Because when God promises you anything, He will fulfill it. But sometimes when man promises you something, He may disappoint you. Man can disappoint, but God can never disappoint. Man can fail, but God can never fail.
The General Overseer of God's Caring Mission International, Obaka Railed, Pastor Onyeka Obioko, also enjoined Christians to find their purpose on earth and to trust God to succeed in their dealings. Preaching on do good, your reward is from the Lord, Pastor Bioko described God as a great rewarder and that those who trust in his promises can never see shame. He called for a change of attitude among the faithful, advising them to always provide for the needy.
So the person that can reward you in this life is Master Jesus. So whatsoever you are going to do it well.
The atmosphere at the St. Peter's African Church, Wellington Bassey Way, was that of dancing as members raised their voices to appreciate their Creator for guidance and mercy. Choirs in the different churches visited praised God in songs. Some worshippers said August has been a beautiful month and prayed God to guide them through September.
In the month of August, our God has been faithful, not just to the church, not just to the family, but also to me as an individual.
The very fact that I'm standing here alive this month is a testimony that God has been faithful.
In the coming month of September, we expect greater miracles from God.
We know very well, believing in God, that the month of September is going to bring in good things we never had in the month of August.
The churches prayed for the country, the states, and families, and also celebrated God's benevolence in thanksgiving. Iyagino Paul reporting.
With that report, we conclude our news today. This morning, you can also watch AKBC TV News online by logging on to akbconline.org or follow us on Twitter at AKBC45U or on Facebook at AKBC Channel 45. And now to end the news, the top stories. Peacock Paints Limited at Tinan is to resume production in less than a month from now. Governor Udomi Manuel gave the assurance at the inauguration of the Akwa Ibom chapter of the Institution of Mechanical Engineers of Nigeria in Uyo. Also, 5 new ADs have been appointed for the Deputy Governor. They include Ekikere Mo of the Pioneer newspapers, who is the Press Secretary. That's our package. Thanks for watching and stay on for the rest of our programs. Good morning.